the last two functions that we would look is the sscanf and sprintf. Okay, these two functions we will look, and if we go back here, so sscanf, and so let's take this function. So far we have seen scanf, which would take input from the user, right? User input. And if you look at fscanf, the input is coming from a file stream, right? Input is from file stream, a file pointer, all that. Okay, scanf, the input comes from the internal buffer, input from the buffer, like array pointer, two-dimensional array, all that, right? So the internal is buffer, such as an array. Okay, so let's take a simple example. Let's take a simple example. Let's say scanf.c. Let's all right. Okay, so let's take character star pointer equal to Sierra College. All right, that's the buffer. Let's take another one, name one, say 10 or say 15, name 2, 15. All right, let's call it as last name and first name instead of last name, first name. And this call, let's call this as John Doe. Okay, so what we are trying to do now, let's scanf, the input buffer is the pointer. We are saying use not the file stream, not the standard input, but the file stream. And the way we want to read is first name as a character, like that. And I want first name and last name. Okay, so what I've done here is I have taken a string, long string, it could be a long string, and I want to separate that into two names, first name and last name, into two different variables. Yeah, so I used my input is the pointer, which is that, and I read into these variables using this format specifier. Yeah, very simple, right? So if I now, how do I check printf? First name, last name, so f name, right? So you have those two. Now if I compile it, okay, if you see it, it will print. My first name is John, last name is Doe. You see that? How I split a huge string I split a huge string which is my buffer, right? And I used scanf to split that into different strings, yeah, into different variables. This is very ideal. For instance, if you're want to parse a huge log file and you want to separate that into different variables. Okay, so that is all about the fscanf. The sprintf is also much similar. The printf, you output is where standard output, right? The key, the display. And fprintf, the output goes to a file. And sprintf, the output goes to a internal buffer, to internal buffer. So let's take the example sprintf. Let's say our standard print first name, last name, and I want to print these two into a buffer. Okay, these things into a buffer, a pointer, whatever that is. So it won't go to a display, it won't go to file, it'll go to an internal buffer. Let's take that example. Let's take the same example. We'll copy scanf to sprintf. Let's see, sprintf, and here I'm going to declare another array. The array name could be, let's say, output 20. So that is my internal buffer. Okay, here, oops, I'm going to use scanf to send it to two variables, and I'm going to use the two variables to print into this buffer, output buffer. Okay, how am I going to do that? Sprintf, my buffer is output, internal array, and it will print the whole thing. You can print the whole thing. I'll make it this maybe 40. Just like the way you see the entire stuff within this double quote in the screen, you will pipe the whole output of this into the output buffer. So if I compile this, now I have it in output. So how do I print it? Print output is output. Okay, very simple, right? So now compile it. Ta-da! See, the whole thing is printed. So just to summarize this, if you have a buffer of data and you want to split that data into different variables, variable 1, variable 2, use sscanf, because the buffer input buffer is a internal buffer. right? If your buffer, if you have variables, say, and you want to print, save all that output, go to a one big buffer, okay? Then you use sprintf. Then all this data can go into buffer if you use sprintf. So it's very identical to uh, printf. So the idea is, so you have to know printf, fprintf, and sprintf. Similarly, you should know scanf, fscanf, and sscanf. Yeah. So like I said, the input for all three things is, one is the keyboard or the display, right? Here is a file, here is an internal buffer. Okay.